Grandma Mary, the respected chairman of the Johnson family empire, had been away for 3 months. During her time away, she had spent countless hours reflecting on her grandson, Tom Johnson, who was next in line to take over as the head of the family's prestigious law firm. Known for his intelligence and charm, Tom was also famous for staying out of the public eye. Very few people had ever seen his face, making him a mystery even within the company. At the firm, the atmosphere was electric. Excitement buzzed through the air as staff whispered and giggled about Tom's imminent arrival. "I heard he's incredibly handsome," murmured a junior lawyer, her voice barely audible. "And rich," added another, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Can you imagine being the one to catch his attention? He's the most eligible bachelor around." Despite all the speculation, no one had any idea that Tom would soon be among them. In disguise. Meanwhile, Grandma Mary had her own plans. Instead of making a grand return as the chairman, she decided to go undercover as an elderly cleaner. Her goal was not just to observe how the company truly operated when no one knew her real identity, but also to carry out a secret mission, to find a wife for Tom. She wanted someone who would love him for who he truly was, not for his status or wealth. Dressed in plain clothes and wearing an old watch that looked like a cheap knockoff, Grandma Mary entered the law firm. Most people ignored her, but a group of female employees quickly took notice. "Who let her in?" one of them sneered, glaring at her. "Look at that fake watch, trying to look rich," another added, rolling her eyes. Grandma laughed and whispered loudly, making rude comments for everyone to hear. Grandma Mary stayed silent at first, observing them with sharp, calculating eyes. But when one of the women stepped closer and accused her of trying to fit into the upper class, the situation escalated. "It's just an old watch," Grandma Mary said calmly. "Why does it matter to you?" Her response didn't sit well with them. One of the women shoved her slightly, and Grandma Mary stumbled backward, nearly losing her balance. Before things could escalate further, a commanding voice cut through the commotion. "Enough!" The room fell silent as a young, beautiful lawyer with sharp features stepped forward. Her presence exuded authority and immediately diffused the tension. "What are you doing?" she asked firmly, her gaze sweeping across the group. Amelia addressed the group firmly, crossing her arms. "She's just doing her job. Don't you have better things to do than bully someone?" The group of women exchanged awkward glances, but none of them backed down entirely. One of them sneered at Amelia, her tone dripping with mockery. "Look who's talking," she said, her voice laced with sarcasm. "Aren't you the one who got dumped for being too nosy? No wonder you're single." Amelia's jaw tightened, but she didn't flinch. "I wasn't dumped," she replied coolly. "I left him. I don't need a boyfriend who cheats, and I certainly don't tolerate liars. It's called self-respect. You should try it sometime." Her words stung, and the group muttered among themselves, clearly irritated but unwilling to continue the confrontation. One by one, they walked away. Amelia turned to Grandma Mary, her expression softening. "Are you all right?" she asked gently. Grandma Mary nodded, giving Amelia a small smile. "Thank you, dear. I appreciate it." "It's nothing," Amelia shrugged. "Just let me know if anyone bothers you again." As Amelia walked away, Grandma Mary's eyes followed her, a small, knowing smile playing on her lips. "She's got a good heart," Grandma Mary murmured to herself. "This one's special." The office had quieted down. After the earlier commotion, Grandma Mary decided it was the perfect time to approach Amelia. She found her sitting at her desk, focused on a stack of papers. Clearing her throat softly, Grandma Mary spoke up. "Excuse me, dear, can I have a moment of your time?" Amelia looked up and smiled warmly, recognizing the older woman she had helped earlier. "Of course, ma'am. How can I help you?" Grandma Mary sat down across from Amelia, her sharp eyes glinting with curiosity. "I couldn't help but overhear your colleagues earlier," she began. Then she glanced at her husband. "It seems you're single. Would you mind marrying my grandson?" Amelia blinked, taken aback by the unexpected question. She laughed politely, unsure if Grandma Mary was serious. "That's very kind of you to suggest, but I'm not looking for love right now. I've had my fair share of heartbreak, and I think I'm better off focusing on my career." Grandma Mary tilted her head slightly. "Heartbreak? You're much too young to have gone through so much pain." Amelia hesitated for a moment, then sighed. "A lot of men have let me down. My most recent boyfriend, who was also a colleague here, cheated on me. And not just anywhere. He did it right here in the office. I caught him red-handed. It was humiliating." Grandma Mary's eyes narrowed and her voice grew firm. "You're right to be cautious. But I can assure you, my grandson is nothing like that. He lost both his parents in a car accident when he was very young. I raised him myself, and he's grown up to be a fine young man with a kind heart. He would never betray someone like that." Amelia gave Grandma Mary a soft smile, not wanting to offend her. "That's very sweet of you to say. I'll think about it," she replied, trying to brush off the seriousness of the conversation with a light tone. Just then the door to the office opened, and a young man walked in. Amelia's attention was immediately drawn to him. He had strikingly handsome features. Sharp cheekbones, kind eyes, and a confident yet humble demeanor. He was dressed in simple clothes, but he carried himself with an air of quiet elegance. "Grandma," the young man said, his voice warm and familiar as he approached. Grandma Mary smiled fondly. "Tommy, there you are. Come here, dear." Amelia froze for a moment. Grandma, was this the grandson she had just been asked to consider? "This is Tommy," Grandma Mary said, introducing him with pride. "He's a new intern here at the firm." Tommy smiled at Amelia, extending his hand. "Hi, I'm Tommy. It's nice to meet you." Amelia shook his hand, her cheeks tinged with a slight blush. "I'm Amelia. Welcome to the firm." Tommy's smile widened. "Thank you. I've heard this is a great place to learn, so I'm excited to get started." Grandma Mary watched the interaction with a satisfied smile, her mind already working with plans. As Amelia returned to her work, she couldn't help but steal glances at Tommy, wondering how such a seemingly humble and polite young man could possibly be related to the woman who had just made her such an unusual proposal. Tommy's first day as an intern had begun simply, but under the guise of a humble intern, his presence in the office had already set things in motion. Tommy blended in seamlessly with the other employees. His laid-back demeanor made him approachable to everyone, except for a few who looked down on his supposed low rank. Thanks to Grandma Mary's subtle intervention, Tommy was assigned to work closely with Amelia on a case. The project involved drafting legal arguments for a high-profile client. Amelia, being one of the firm's brightest lawyers, was put in charge, while Tommy, as an intern, was there to assist her. As the two began working together, Amelia was pleasantly surprised by Tommy's intelligence and quick grasp of legal principles. His insights were sharp and to the point, making her wonder if he really was just an intern. "You're surprisingly good at this," Amelia said, giving him an approving look. Tommy chuckled. "I guess I've been paying attention for longer than I let on." "I guess I've read a lot of legal books in my spare time," Tommy said, smiling. "I like learning from people who are passionate about what they do, like you." Amelia blushed lightly but smiled. "Thanks, that means a lot." Meanwhile, Grandma Mary kept a watchful eye from a distance. She had positioned herself so she could occasionally overhear their conversations while pretending to clean. Every time Amelia smiled or laughed at something Tommy said, Grandma Mary's heart swelled with pride. "They're starting to get along," she muttered to herself, giving a sly smile as she pushed her cleaning cart away. Later that day, as Amelia wrapped up some paperwork, her phone buzzed. It was a call from her mother. He hesitated for a moment but answered with a cheerful tone. "Hi, Mom," Amelia greeted, trying to sound casual. "Amelia, when are you bringing your boyfriend home? You promised to introduce me to your future husband soon," her mother said enthusiastically. Amelia's stomach churned. She had no boyfriend to introduce, and the pressure was mounting. Not wanting to disappoint her mother, she replied nervously, "Soon, Mom. You'll meet him soon, I promise." Her mother sighed with delight. "Good, you're not getting any younger, sweetheart. I just want to see you happy." "Of course, Mom," Amelia replied, forcing a laugh. "I have to get back to work now." "Okay, dear," her mother said before hanging up. Amelia exhaled deeply. "What am I going to do?" she thought. The last thing she wanted was to lie to her mother, but the idea of explaining her single status felt unbearable. Amelia was lost in her thoughts. The rest of the office was buzzing with excitement. Word had spread that Tom Johnson, the elusive and brilliant heir to the Johnson family fortune, would soon be arriving to officially take over the firm. "Do you think he'll let us join his team?" one lawyer asked. "Of course not," Lucy, a sassy and ambitious employee, scoffed. "He's only going to pick the best of the best. Let's be honest, most of you don't stand a chance." Lucy's confidence stemmed from her own ambitions to work directly under Tom Johnson. She knew his reputation as a record-breaking lawyer who had never lost a case and was on track to become the youngest senior advocate in the country. She was determined to impress him at any cost. As Amelia walked back to her desk, Lucy smirked. "Well, if it isn't the queen of mediocrity," she said loudly enough for others to hear. "Don't even think about trying to join Mr. Johnson's team. You'll never be picked by someone like him." Lucy sneered, her voice dripping with disdain. "A low-class lawyer from a no-name university." Amelia stopped in her tracks, her heart sinking. "That's enough, Lucy," she said quietly, trying to keep her composure. "Oh, am I wrong?" Lucy continued mockingly, her eyes narrowing. "Everyone here knows you're not in his league. Why don't you just stick to minor cases and leave the big leagues to those of us who are actually qualified?" Before Amelia could respond, Tommy stood up from his desk. "That's enough," he said firmly, stepping between Lucy and Amelia. Lucy raised an eyebrow, sizing him up. "And who do you think you are, intern? Do you even have the right to speak to me like that?" "I might be just an intern," Tommy replied calmly, "but I know that respect and kindness go a long way." He turned to Amelia with a soft smile before facing Lucy again. "Amelia is a fantastic lawyer who works harder than anyone here. If Mr. Johnson values talent, I'm sure he'll recognize that in her before anyone else." Lucy laughed bitterly, shaking her head. "You're defending her? That's cute, but you're as low on the totem pole as she is. Don't get in my way, intern." Tommy didn't back down. "Maybe I'm low on the totem pole, but I know the kind of people who climb it. The ones who reach the top aren't the ones who tear others down, and I can tell Amelia's got what it takes." Tommy's voice was steady but laced with emotion as he looked into Amelia's eyes. "I'm not pretending. I've been working undercover because I wanted to see how things were truly run here. I wanted to understand how people like you, who are loyal and hardworking, are treated." Amelia hesitated, still trying to process everything, her heart conflicted. "But Tommy, you could be in so much trouble. If Mr. Johnson finds out—" "I know the risks," Tommy interrupted, his voice soft but resolute, "but I can't stand by and watch people like you be mistreated. I've seen enough to know that you and so many others here deserve more than what this place is offering." Amelia's mind raced. She could feel the weight of the situation, the consequences looming. But despite the fear creeping in, there was something undeniably genuine in Tommy's words. She reached out and placed a hand on his arm. "You've got to be careful. I know you're trying to help, but this could backfire in ways you don't even see." Tommy met her gaze with quiet determination. "I'm not backing down, Amelia. I'll fight for what's right, no matter what it costs me." Amelia let out a deep breath, trying to steady her racing thoughts. "I get it, Tommy, but we need to think about this more. The risk is too high for you to do this alone." Tommy nodded. "I won't be alone. I have you now." As Tommy's words lingered in the air, Amelia felt something shift within her. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to believe in the possibility of trust. It wasn't just the promise of a kind heart. Tommy had already shown her that he was willing to fight for what was right, even if it meant risking everything. But the storm was far from over. The office was still buzzing, rumors and whispers filling the air like wildfire. And with Mark's sudden dismissal, there was no telling how the rest of the firm would react. Amelia knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but she also knew she wasn't alone anymore. The battle for truth and justice had only just begun. Tommy's heart swelled as he heard Amelia's words. He had longed for her to see beyond his humble facade, to realize that his worth wasn't tied to his wealth or title. As she spoke, he took her hand in his voice low but sincere. "Amelia, I don't care about money or status either. What matters is that we love each other. I've never been more sure of anything in my life." Grandma Mary, who had been watching the exchange with a satisfied smile, gave a soft sigh of relief. "I knew it," she murmured to herself, her eyes twinkling with satisfaction. She turned her attention to Tommy and Amelia, her voice soft but steady. "You two are perfect for each other. Life's too short to wait for the right moment. Sometimes the right moment is when you make the decision to follow your heart." Amelia felt her heart race. Everything was happening so fast, yet she knew deep down that Grandma Mary was right. She had already fallen for Tommy, and now, the prospect of building a life with him felt like the natural next step. She looked into his eyes and saw the same sincerity reflected back at her. It wasn't just the idea of marriage that appealed to her, it was the promise of a future built on love, respect, and trust. "I want to be with you, Tommy," Amelia said, her voice trembling slightly with emotion. "Let's do this. Let's build something together." Tommy smiled, a mixture of relief and joy crossing his face. He pulled her into a gentle embrace, whispering, "I'll never let you down, I promise." The air in the room shifted, and for a moment it felt like everything had fallen into place. Tommy and Amelia were finally on the same page, and for the first time, there was a shared sense of certainty about their future. Grandma Mary, her role in the plan complete, let out a contented sigh, and leaned back into her chair. "I couldn't be more pleased," she said softly. "I'm glad I could help bring you two together. Now, go make each other happy." As Tommy and Amelia left Grandma Mary's apartment that evening, they both felt a sense of calm settling over them. Their journey together was just beginning, and they knew there would be challenges ahead, but for the first time in a long while they both felt ready to face them. Tommy's decision to reveal his true identity and the support from Amelia had laid the foundation for something far more significant than any title or status. They had each other, and that was all that truly mattered. Tommy hesitated, his gaze softening as he took in Amelia's emotional struggle. "I wanted to tell you, Amelia, I really did. But I was afraid. Afraid you'd see me as just another rich CEO, someone who had it all and didn't deserve you. I wanted you to love me for who I am, not for what I have. I thought that if you knew the truth too soon, you'd be driven away by the weight of it all. I wanted to give you time to see me, to love me, without the burden of my identity hanging over us." Amelia's arms slowly uncrossed, her heart torn between betrayal and the love she had felt for him. "So all of this, the wedding, the way you've treated me, was all part of some plan? You were playing a game with me, Tommy? How could I trust you after this?" "I never intended to hurt you, Amelia," Tommy responded quietly, his voice pained. "I love you more than anything, and I've always wanted to build something real with you. But I feared losing you more than I feared anything else. I thought that by pretending I could give you the space to choose me for who I am, without feeling like I was just a CEO looking for a partner." Amelia looked at him, her mind racing. She had always admired Tommy's kindness, his humility, and the way he stood by her, but now the foundation she had built in her heart seemed to crumble under the weight of his secret. She could feel the tears threatening to fall, but she blinked them back. "Tommy, I don't know how to process all of this. I'm not sure how to feel right now. I feel betrayed, but I also know that you never hurt me intentionally. I just don't know if I can handle the truth now. After everything." Tommy stepped closer, his voice pleading. "Amelia, I know I've made mistakes, but I swear to you, the love I have for you is real. The way I feel about you, it has nothing to do with status or money. You've always been the person I've wanted in my life, and nothing will change that. Please, let me prove it to you." Amelia took a deep breath, her mind a whirl of confusion, anger, and love. "I need time, Tommy. Time to figure out if I can trust you again. Time to process all of this." Tommy nodded, a pained look on his face. "I understand. I'll give you all the time you need. Just know that I'm not going anywhere. I love you, Amelia, and I'll wait for you no matter how long it takes." Amelia sat down on the couch, the weight of the situation still pressing down on her chest. As Tommy stood by, silently giving her space, her thoughts were a tangled mess of emotions. She wanted to trust him, but the betrayal felt too deep to ignore. The next few days were tense. Amelia threw herself into her work, keeping her distance from Tommy, unsure of what to make of the man who had both loved her and deceived her. Meanwhile, Tommy kept his distance as well, respecting her need for space, but his heart ached with the fear that he might have lost her for good. Lucy, sensing the tension, continued her campaign to ruin Amelia's reputation, but Tommy stood firm in his support of Amelia. Despite his own struggles, he made sure to shield her from Lucy's attacks, using his position as the real Tom Johnson to push back against any attempts to discredit her. Grandma Mary, ever watchful, continued to monitor the situation, offering support to Tommy and Amelia, though she knew that the path to healing would take time. "Love is never easy," she often told Tommy, "but it's worth fighting for." As time passed, Amelia began to reflect on her relationship with Tommy. Despite the hurt, she realized that her feelings for him hadn't changed. He had been genuine in his affection, even if his actions hadn't always reflected it. She couldn't deny that his love for her was real, and she could see now how much he had struggled with his decision to keep his identity a secret. One evening, after a long day at the office, Amelia sat down to have a conversation with Tommy. "I've been thinking," she began slowly, "and I still don't know what to do with everything that's happened. But I do know one thing. I love you, Tommy, and that hasn't changed." Tommy's heart skipped a beat, hope flickering in his chest. "Amelia, But," she interrupted gently, "trust is something that has to be earned, and I need to see if you can be the man I thought you were before. Someone who loves me for who I am, not for any status or title." Tommy nodded, understanding her need for time. "I'll do whatever it takes, Amelia. I'll prove to you that I'm the man you deserve." As they sat together, the air between them still heavy, a quiet understanding settled between them. Their journey wasn't over, it was just beginning. The road ahead would be filled with challenges, but Tommy was willing to fight for their future no matter what. Amelia's heart skipped a beat when she overheard the whispers. The gossip was spreading quickly through the office, and she knew it wouldn't be long before someone connected the dots. Lucy, as expected, was fanning the flames, eager to turn any tidbit of information into a scandal. "He must be hiding her away," Lucy continued, her voice dripping with suspicion. "Maybe it's someone from his past, someone he doesn't want anyone to know about." Amelia kept her head down, pretending not to notice the conversation, though every word felt like a dagger in her chest. The necklace, the rumors, it was all too much to handle. She had always known that Tommy's world was far more complicated than hers, but now it was becoming harder to ignore. That evening, after the office had emptied, Amelia sat at her desk, lost in thought. She had learned to trust Tommy, but the secrecy surrounding his identity still weighed heavily on her. Was this all part of the grand plan Grandma Mary had set in motion? Amelia wasn't sure anymore. Tommy, meanwhile, was fully aware of the growing gossip about his secret love and knew that he needed to address it soon. The rumors would only continue to escalate, and it wasn't fair to Amelia to let them spiral out of control. The next morning, as they both arrived at the office, Tommy caught Amelia by the elevator. She looked as though she hadn't slept the night before, and he could see the stress written across her face. "Amelia," he said softly, his tone apologetic, "we need to talk about this." She glanced up at him, her eyes tired but understanding. "I know, the rumors. They're getting out of hand. I don't want them to hurt you," Tommy replied earnestly. "I need to tell everyone the truth, Amelia. They need to know who I am, but more importantly, I want them to know that you're my wife. I don't want you to have to carry this secret anymore." Amelia paused, then nodded slowly. "I'm ready. But we need to do it in a way that makes sense. It can't just be a sudden announcement. People are going to react, and I need you to be prepared for that." Tommy agreed, his resolve strengthening. "We'll do it together. I'll take the lead, but you'll be right there with me. It's time for all the lies to end." That afternoon, Tommy called a meeting with the entire staff. The room was filled with tension as everyone waited to hear what the CEO had to say. Amelia sat beside him, her nerves jangling but her support unwavering. Tommy stood at the head of the table, his gaze sweeping over the employees. "I'm sure many of you have been hearing rumors about me, about my personal life," he began, his voice steady but firm. "And it's time I put an end to them. You've been wondering who I am and why I've been so secretive. The truth is simple. I'm Tom Johnson, the CEO of this firm, and I'm also a husband, a man who's married to the woman sitting beside me, Amelia." A stunned silence filled the room. Amelia could feel the weight of everyone's eyes on her, but Tommy's presence gave her the strength to hold her ground. "I know this might come as a surprise," Tommy continued, "but I didn't want to reveal this until the time was right. I wanted to make sure that the person you all saw was the person I am, not just the man with a title. I've worked hard to build this firm, but the truth is I'm only here because of the people who have supported me, and that includes Amelia." Amelia's heart swelled with pride as Tommy spoke. He wasn't just revealing his identity as the CEO, he was revealing his true self to everyone, his love for her not hidden behind any mask. The room was still silent, but then, slowly, the murmurs started. Some employees looked at each other in shock. Others were too stunned to react. But Lucy, who had been sitting smugly, now seemed taken aback, her lips pressed together in a tight line. "Amelia," Tommy said, his hand gently resting on hers, "thank you for being my partner in this. I've kept so much from you all, but no more. It's time we move forward together." As the meeting concluded, the staff filtered out and Amelia felt a mix of relief and anxiety. They had done it. Tommy had finally revealed the truth, but now they would have to face the aftermath. Later that evening, as they sat together in their apartment, Amelia looked at Tommy, her heart still processing the weight of everything that had happened. "You were right," she said quietly. "This was the right thing to do. But what now?" Tommy smiled, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Now we take things one step at a time, together." And with that, they both knew that the journey ahead, whatever challenges it might bring, was one they would face, side by side.